Yo, what's up guys? Mike here, coming at you from the mushroom farm. I got a great video for you guys today. So today we're gonna talk about packaging, like boxes for your mushrooms, whether it's immediately after harvest or taking them to the farmer's market, selling them to a chef or a restaurant, or even to a grocery store, stuff like that. I actually owned a mushroom retail shop at one point in my mushroom growing career. So anyway, those of you new viewers just now tuning into the channel, those of you who don't know, my name's Mike. I'm a mushroom farmer. I've been farming gourmet mushrooms 9 years as my full-time job. Here's just a few clips and pictures of some of my recent grows and some of the harvests I've done over the years. But like I said, I mainly sell these things at farmers markets and to high-end restaurants, but I also owned a mushroom retail shop at one point in my mushroom growing career. So I've got a whole lot of experience when it comes to growing and selling mushrooms. So if you're into mushrooms and farming, make sure you click that subscribe button right now so you get more mushroom and farming videos like this in the future. We've got a lot of cool stuff on this channel. I'm doing daily uploads. We are going to keep the daily uploads going right now, guys. I really enjoy doing it. I am locked in right now. So I also want to say we're doing a subscriber giveaway. We're actually going to kick that off tomorrow. We're going to start that off tomorrow that you guys can enter in that. And we're going to announce the winner right before the end of the month. So be ready for that. We also have a Black Friday sale coming up, and that's going to be on my website. The website is linked down in the description box below. I've been loading up lots of liquid cultures. I've got cultures on cultures on cultures. We got more over there that I just got done. But I'm going to be working on some of that these next couple days. They're all looking beautiful, man. All testing clean. So you guys are, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to upload the stock on the website. We've been out of stock of a lot of stuff, but we're ready to rock again. So we'll get the website stock back up and you guys can make any purchases if you want to. But we are doing the Black Friday sale towards the end of the month. So be prepared for that. And here's a few statistics right now about the subscribers to the channel. Nearly 42% of you watching this video right now are not subscribed, and it would honestly just mean the world to me if you would click that subscribe button. So thank you all for watching today. Thanks everybody who subscribed to the channel. Now let's go ahead and get into the video. So anyway, boxes. Let's talk about this a little bit. I want to talk to you guys kind of about how I started off, okay, because we have a lot of new growers to this channel and just some like nice, cheap, cost-effective ways to get into this. And I want to talk to you guys about what I do now compared to what I used to do, okay? And now I'll just say, what you can do in the very beginning, if you want to have something like good and reusable and you don't have any waste products, you're not spending any money, totes, okay? So just some standard black plastic totes work pretty good. What I do want to say about using totes though, okay? There's some pros and cons to using the totes. We're going to talk about boxes and all that stuff too. I'd say the main pros to using like a cheap plastic tote of some kind is, number one, it's reusable, okay? So you can keep using it over and over again. You don't have to keep spending money on boxes or containers or anything like that. And they're also readily available. You can pretty much get them anywhere. A lot of you probably have them laying around your house too or something like that. Now, I want to say some of the downsides to these totes though, because there are some downsides. I'd say one of the downsides is they can develop condensation on the inside, so you have to watch that depending on what your refrigeration environment is like or just whatever environment you're in. You could get some condensation on there and it might give you some weird effects on your mushrooms and may decrease the shelf life, so just keep an eye on that in case you're using those totes. I also want to say another downfall from those totes is that you have to clean them, okay? So it just creates more work on the farm. You're going to be constantly wiping out the totes, cleaning the totes out. And depending on the size tote you use, okay, you can fit more mushrooms in, obviously, if you use some of these like really big totes. But if you keep stacking them, it'll get your mushrooms kind of dirty. You might break some and some might fall apart and stuff like that. So I'll just say if you just do one layer in those totes, you get like better quality mushrooms and they don't get as beat up, all right? But I have stacked them in there in the past and taken them right to the farmer's market and sold them, and it hasn't been that big of a deal actually, so I haven't really had too much of a problem with it myself, but I'm just hyper aware of that can happen, so I'm pretty careful when I'm packing mushrooms in totes if I'm ever using them. And I honestly haven't used totes like that in a long time. I pretty much made a conversion on my farm to cardboard boxes, and I want to talk to you guys about the cardboard boxes. I'll tell you exactly like what size cardboard boxes I'm using, why I'm using them, why I think they're good, all that good stuff. So there's just a clip right now of some of the different sizes boxes that I'm using. And basically all my cardboard boxes, I'm sourcing these from Amazon just because it's convenient for me. They have a pretty good price on them too, to tell you the truth, and it's fast shipping. So the size box that I'm using for these, I'm using an 18 by 12 by 6, okay? So 18 long, 12 wide, 6 high. And I've also used 16 by 12 by 6 But I really prefer, I like that either one of those two, 18 by 12 by 6, and that's a really good size to make you roughly a 5-pound box, and it fits my mushrooms in really good for the size mushrooms I grow here on my farm using these XLSA bags and these 10-pound substrate blocks, because we do get some pretty big mushrooms coming off the blocks here. So those are the two sizes I've kind of been playing with this last year here on my farm, and I'll talk to you guys kind of why I made the conversion. And there's several reasons too. There's a myriad of reasons why I like using these cardboard boxes now. Like I said, you can get them pretty easily right after harvest. Okay, you can put them all in the boxes. When I was talking about moisture problems that you may experience with a plastic tote, you don't really experience that with a cardboard box, because the cardboard box can kind of soak up some of that moisture. And I personally think it keeps the shelf life better on the cardboard, or on your mushrooms, if you're using a cardboard box. Okay, so for me that's worked out pretty good. Also, I like the fact when I use these cardboard boxes, those 6-inch high ones, it's the perfect size that you can fit in like one layer of mushrooms in that box, and that way you're not crushing anything. Everything looks super nice. When I take them to the farmer's market, everything is just like in pristine condition, and I really like that. And another thing too, if you're selling these things to restaurants or chefs, now everybody does this different ways, okay? Eric Myers from Myers Mushroom, years ago when he started doing the whole mushroom farming thing, especially on YouTube, he uses plastic totes, okay? Basically, he would put his mushrooms in a plastic tote, take that plastic tote to the restaurant, and then he would just swap it out every time if he would go back to the restaurant. And usually want to have a reoccurring order set up when you're doing something like that. But there's a couple cons to doing that. Let me just tell you. So a few of the cons is that's going to be sitting, those totes are going to be sitting in the restaurant. Not every chef wants your totes sitting in their restaurant, just especially these high-end restaurants, okay? The chefs with the $100 plates that they're selling, they do not want to be babysitting your $10 plastic tote in the back of their restaurant, okay? It's kind of weird, you know what I mean? I don't know. So I personally just don't even like thinking about that. And the whole thing with the boxes is you could pretty much box everything up, have everything nice and weighed out for your chef, and you could drop it off super quick, and you don't have to worry about picking up your totes then. They don't have to send some other employee to go grab your totes, and they don't have to babysit your totes, basically, okay? So I think it is a big deal to do that. I think it's just a whole convenience thing, and if any of you guys work for yourself, and a lot of these chefs, you know, they're working for themselves, so the easier you can make it on them, the better. I think you're going to get more sales that way, to tell you the truth. I just like doing it that way. It's nice and professional, too. You don't have to worry about giving them some janky tote or whatever. You can give them a nice, clean box every single time. And it's not that expensive. Like, most of these boxes are around $2 a pop or something like that. Just work that into your margins, especially if you're dealing with these high-end restaurants. Most of them don't care about it too much, okay? Just charge what you need to, and most of them are more than happy to buy them from you. And also another thing, too, with these boxes, if you guys are wondering how much weight fits in the boxes, I was talking yesterday in my video about some of the different weights the mushrooms have. Some of them are lighter than others, some are more dense than others. So I'll say, if you're using something like pinks and golden oysters are a little lighter, you can fit about 4 to 5 pounds, close to 5. You're really kind of cramming 5 in those boxes, but you can make it work, okay? But usually around 4 to 5 for the pinks and the golds. For blues, blue oysters, aspen oysters, stuff like that, you can easily fit 5 to 6 pounds in there. And for your really dense mushrooms, like king oysters, lion's mane, stuff like that, you could have anywhere from like 6 to 8 pounds of mushrooms in some of these boxes, just because they're so dense and you can pack them so tightly, because they don't have the caps and just shapes of some of the clusters. So that's just a couple things I feel like you guys should know about the boxes. And as far as taking these things to farmers markets, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about here. There's a lot of pros and cons to both like boxes and totes. Like I said, I don't like the fact that you can smash the mushrooms when you're using the totes. I'll say one thing to be aware of, some people ask this, is a cooler better or something like that if you're going to a farmer's market where it's really hot? Basically, not really. My kind of thing is I always try to sell them as fast as I can, okay? So the trick to making sure your mushrooms don't go bad before you get them to your customers is just sell them quickly, all right? That's like a joke, too, at the same time. But honestly, I haven't had too many problems with mushrooms going bad or anything like that. Even selling in the Midwest, we would have like 100-degree days on a Saturday at the farmer's market when I was selling in like St. Louis, Missouri. And I would just keep things in my plastic totes, and I honestly didn't have any problems with it. I did like to open the lid on it just to let them vent a little bit. And air is like really humid there, so they wouldn't dry out or anything like that there. Here, actually, in Colorado, they'd be more likely to dry out. But here's what's interesting. At the farmers markets that I sell at here, just because of the elevation, even in the middle of the summer, okay, I'm selling at places with like 8,000 foot elevation, it's like 70 something degrees. It doesn't really get over 70 something degrees in some of these places. So I never really have any problems at all when it comes to temperatures or anything like that, what I'm experiencing now. But even when I had 100-degree days, it wasn't really that big of a deal. Okay, and another cool thing, whether you're using totes or boxes, the boxes, when you get done, you can break them down and, just make them flat, and you can easily take them back home. You can actually reuse them sometimes. So that's kind of a cool thing about the cardboard box. Even though you are paying for it, as long as your mushrooms aren't really nasty or anything like that, you can continuously reuse these boxes, at least for like 1 or 2, 3, maybe 3 farmers markets. For chefs, I always like to give chefs a new box, just because the spores that end up in the box, when you get done with the farmer's market, you'll see all the spores in that box. Okay, so the boxes do get a lot of spores on them, but you can totally just put more mushrooms back in there and it's totally fine. It's nice and clean. Now, I want to talk about that though, with the spores and the boxes. This is something a lot of people don't think about. And when you've been farming mushrooms, or just farming mushrooms in general, there's a lot of spores these mushrooms put off. Okay, and I've been farming mushrooms for a long time, and I've actually developed sensitivities to the spores just for like my respiratory system and my lungs and stuff like that. So when I'm going in my grow rooms, I'm always making sure, if I got this place loaded with mushrooms, I'm wearing my mask. And I will say, when you are transporting these mushrooms, if you are sensitive to these spores, you will feel it. It can affect you. I've had boxes of mushrooms just sitting up in the front seat of my pickup truck, and if I do that, I definitely feel it. It'll make me cough a little bit. I don't like it. So what I always do, I always put my mushrooms in the back of my pickup truck, okay? And I will load it up. I will load the back of my pickup truck up with boxes of mushrooms. I think I had like 40 something of these 5-pound boxes the last time I went to the farmer's market here in the back of my pickup truck. And I will say, I don't have a camper shell or anything like that, and I drive 2 hours to this really good farmer's market that I do, and I haven't had any problems actually keeping them back there. I'll just kind of stack them up in layers. I might put a strap over them sometimes, but they don't dry out or anything like that. I had one day it was getting really cold and they started getting frost on them on the inside, but they were okay when I got to the market, so everything was okay then. I never had any problems with rain either. That's another thing I've always kind of wondered, because I don't have a camper shell. So I was like, man, that might be one thing I run into one day. I'm kind of gambling driving there with keeping them in the back of my truck without having a camper shell on it or anything like that. But like in Colorado, we mainly always have sunny days, especially in the summertime. Most of the precipitation comes in the winter, and it comes in the form of snow. So I really didn't have any problems. I lucked out this year. I had no rainy days at the farmer's market. It's actually pretty cool. I enjoy that. But that's just something to be aware of. If you are going to be using cardboard boxes, make sure you have a good way that you can get them to the farmer's market so that you're not breathing in a bunch of spores. But at the same time, if you're storing them in the back of your pickup truck, like I said, be aware of rain or anything like that that could potentially happen. But I lucked out this year, no problems. I probably will put a camper shell on my truck though in the future, because I'm bringing a lot of mushrooms to these markets and it's getting super serious over here. So I got to make sure we're taking all kinds of precautions, because if all the boxes would get rained on one day, or I'd go through a downpour, my God, that would be some trouble. I'd have some soggy boxes to deal with and all that, so that would be interesting. I will say with totes, okay, you can keep those in your vehicle and you don't really have the problem, I'll say, just because you got a better seal on them. When I use the boxes, I just kind of fold the tops over or fold the bottom or whatever. I don't tape anything. I just make it nice and easy for myself. But I don't have that problem if I put a tote of spores in like a car or a pickup truck with me. I used to bring a car to me with the farmer's market back in St. Louis, and guys, I would have my car packed. Front seat, back seat, the trunk, everything was freaking packed, but I would fit I had a little Chevy Cavalier. I would put everything in my little Chevy Cavalier. I got a pickup now, which is great, but I was putting everything in my car back then, and I got by totally. I will tell you, when you drive to the farmer's market with a car full of mushrooms like that, the spores don't bother you, but the smell, oh my God, the smell is like so overwhelming. Depending on what you got, I've had different days where I've had like lots of lion's mane or golden oysters. Those are the ones I feel like you get like the most smell. I smell those the most. Oh, chestnuts. Chestnuts actually have a really noticeable smell too. But if you've got a lot of a certain type of mushroom, it's just interesting. It's not bad or anything. But you get in the car and you're like, I am in the lion's mane car right now, boy. It's kind of like that. So anyway, that's just talking about some of the pros and cons so far about totes, boxes, stuff like that. Now I want to talk about packaging for grocery stores and stuff like that. If you're selling them at grocery stores, clamshells are pretty much going to be a really good go-to thing. You can either use like clamshells or little pulp containers or cardboard containers. There's pros and cons to both, but you can use either one of those. They work pretty good. I will say in your plastic clamshells, you need to make sure they can breathe a little bit because, like I said, you can have condensation problems. The shelf life may decrease a little bit. You have to find your happy medium with these things so that they don't dry out, but they're not going to get anaerobic or anything weird like that, okay? So that's a few things to keep in mind when you're selling them to grocery stores and stuff like that. I don't really do too much of that anymore. And I'll also say, when I had my mushroom retail shop, we would display our mushrooms in a cooler that I made. I made this pretty cool, like, deli-style cooler, and we'd kind of display them up in there. And then when it was time for the customer to buy them, I would literally just take them out of the cooler, and we would put them in a brown paper bag, and they would go right to the customer, okay? And that's another thing, too, waste streams when it comes to packaging and stuff like that. Everything that I've kind of described is pretty good for the most part. The plastic clamshells are obviously not like as environmentally safe, but I'll just kind of say everything like cardboard, stuff like that, all that stuff's going to break down. One thing I want to say too, just to give you guys some tips about selling your mushrooms at farmers markets and stuff like that, if you look closely at some of my farmers market pictures, like my display and my table, if you look closely, you'll notice I actually have plastic clamshells, pretty big ones, that I display my mushrooms in. And here's what I do, okay, just so everyone knows, and I make this super clear. I take the mushrooms out of there and I put them in a brown paper bag, and I sell the customer the mushrooms in the brown paper bag. And then I actually keep the clamshells. I wipe them out after every farmer's market. Believe it or not, these plastic clamshells that I've been using as displays for my farmer's market stand, I've had them since the very beginning. Like 9 years now we're going on that I've been using these clamshells, okay? So I'm not creating that much of a waste stream at all. I'm trying to watch every way I can, but like we always have to think about efficiencies on the farm, especially if we're doing it for our job. Like just use the best practice you possibly can, and choose your battles wisely. That's about the best thing I can tell you guys there. Some farmers markets actually do not allow you to sell in plastic containers here in Colorado. They let me do what I'm doing, you know what I mean? But they don't want you selling in plastic bags or anything like that. And there are times they'll make an exception, you know, obviously, like if maybe the farmer forgot their brown paper bags or something like that and they only have plastic ones, you know what I mean? They're not that freaking strict, but I will say it is something everybody is pretty aware of, so we do try to limit our plastic waste. Any of these big cardboard boxes that I'm telling you guys that I'm using for like my roughly 5-pound boxes that I'm making, and the ones that I'm taking to farmers markets, what's nice about those, like I said, you can reuse them a little bit. You can also compost them and use them in your garden. Like if you want to make a layer of cardboard down and put that in your garden, you can go ahead and put your mushroom compost over that then, and you'll turn yourself you'll turn it into a really nice garden bed then eventually. And another thing too, you can actually use that cardboard to even make outdoor mushroom beds. Some people will like layer cardboard and mulch and stuff like that and make King Stropharia or garden giant beds. I don't really have that opportunity out here where I'm at, just in this high desert region. It would take a lot of work and it's not really too worth it for me. Pretty much what I do with all my stuff right now is I've got a huge compost pile like on this whole back side of my building, and I'm gonna put basically a greenhouse over that. I don't think I'm going to get around to it this next year. I think I'm just going to keep building up that compost pile, but we have got a massive pile out there right now, and I'm going to put a greenhouse basically over here, and then I'm going to make another pile. I've got a shipping container over here. I'm going to make another big compost pile over there next to that shipping container in the future, and we'll build a big like passive solar greenhouse off my shipping container, okay? So there's like a whole lot of cool things you can do as far as like reusing your materials so you don't have like a complete waste. And like I said, I really prefer these cardboard boxes nowadays just because, like I said, it's nice and professional. I can just buy them. I don't have to clean anything out. Like I don't have to constantly wipe totes out, so it saves me a lot of time personally. And those are just some of the main reasons why I like them. But I'm a guy that I kind of choose these cardboard boxes, but like if you guys want to use totes, there's just nothing wrong with that. Just know there's pros and cons to both of them, and you choose whatever is right for you on your farm. And I want to say, if you guys have any questions for me about anything I went over today or anything I forgot or something like that, just drop it down below in that comment section. I'll be sure to answer all your questions and all that good stuff. I really appreciate all you guys and all the comments you're leaving. Like I said, we got the subscriber giveaway. Stay tuned for that video tomorrow. Also, like I said, be ready for that Black Friday sale. It's going to be coming up at the end of the month. But hopefully you guys found this video helpful and informative. And if you did, please drop this video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But that's all I got for you on this one. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.